Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasandi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Gora Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Gora Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhana ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 13, Text 11. Matvatam jadam unmatam, Madvatam jadam unmatam, Kula vrida samanjana, Kula vrida samanjana, Vatsarambu patim chakrur, Vatsarambu patim chakrur, Yaviyam sambrame sutam, Yaviyam sambrame sutam, Madhvatvam jadam unmatam, Kulavrida samandrina, Vatsarambu patim chakrur, Yaviyam sambrame sutam, Madhvatam jadam unmatam, Kulavrida samantrina, Vatsarambupatim chakrur Yaviyam sambrame sutam. Prabhus. Matvatam jadam unmatam Kulavrida samantrina Vatsarambupatim chakru Yaviyam sambrame sutam. Matvatam jadam unmatam Kulavrida samantrina Vatsarambupatim chakrur Yaviyam sambrame sutam. Matvatam jadam unmatam Kulavrida samantrina Vatsarambupatim chakrur Yaviyam sambrame sutam. Vaishnaves. Madhvatam jadam unmatam Kulavrida samantrina Vatsarambupatim chakrur Yaviyam sambrame sutam. Matvaram jam unmatam Kulavrida samatrina Vatsarambupatim chakrur Yaviyam sambrame sutam. Madhva, thinking. Tam, utkala. Jadam, without intelligence. Unmatam, mad. Kulavrida, the elderly members of the family. Samantrina, with the ministers. Vatsaram, Vatsara. Whoa. Sorry. Bhupatim, ruler. Yeah, sorry. Am I in the right verse? I'm supposed to read 10. Okay. Yes. So we're just going to carry on the word for word. Sorry. Chakru, they made. Yaviyamsam, younger. Brahme, of Brahmi. Sutam, son. So this is not the verse for today. Krishna. For this reason, the ministers and all the elderly members of the family thought Utkala to be without intelligence and in fact mad. Thus his younger brother, named Vatsara, the son of Brahmi, was elevated to the royal throne and he became the king of the world. But the verse that we are reading today, Jadanda bandiron mata mukta kir atanmati lakshita patibalanam prashantarchir ivanala. Utkala appeared to the less intelligent persons on the road to be foolish, blind, dumb, deaf and mad, although actually he was not so. He remained like fire covered with ashes without blazing flames. So we're actually on text 10. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In order to avoid contradiction, botheration, and unfavorable situations created by materialistic persons, a great saintly person like Jada Bharat or Utkala remains silent. The less intelligent consider such saintly persons to be mad, deaf, or dumb. Factually, an advanced devotee avoids speaking with persons who are not in devotional life, but to those who are in devotional life, he speaks in friendship, and he speaks to the innocent for their enlightenment. For all practical purposes, the whole world is full of non-devotees, and so one kind of very advanced devotee is called Bhajananandi. Those who are Gostianandi, however, preach to increase the number of devotees. But even such preachers also avoid opposing elements which are unfavorably disposed towards spiritual life. So in case anyone's confused, we are on text 10. Utkala appeared to the less intelligent persons on the road to be foolish, blind, dumb, deaf, and mad. Although actually he was not so. He remained like fire covered with ashes without blazing flames. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, we're just continuing this description of Utkala, who is the son of Dhruva Maharaj, and who was born very much with Dhruva Maharaj's purified qualities of not wanting the kingdom, and in this verse we learn how he very much sort of emulated the Jada Bharat role. Jada Bharat, the story is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, which canto? Fifth canto. It's the story of Jada Bharat, and in which Jada Bharat was originally a king of the universe and ruling the whole universe with his queens and his progeny, and at one point decided to renounce the universe, as was very much the mood of the kings of those days. That when it came to a certain point in their lives, they realized that now I need to focus on the Supreme, and they would leave their kingdoms and go to the forest. So Jada Bharat went to the forest, and while he was at the forest, he came across in a stream a deer which was being chased by a tiger, a pregnant deer, and the deer miscarried and gave birth to the foal, I guess we would call it, the baby deer, and then Jada Bharat and the mother died. So Jada Bharat sees this little deer that's just born in the waters of the river, and he rescues it. And he continues his meditation, but like once you have a deer, once there's people, you need food. So once you have a deer, you need to feed the deer, you take care of the deer. And as he was doing his meditation, and he was also taking care of this deer, but slowly and slowly it just went from one thing to another, and his meditation in the forest got really distracted by this deer. The little cute deer nuzzling you when you're chanting your japa, and so he just became distracted. And so therefore, at the end of his life, and also the thought, the feeling that this entity now depends on me, which is, I think, when people become parents, it's the scariest thing that you have. Sometimes you'd hear, people say, like, for myself, I don't need so much, but for my kids, like, how do I, if something happened to them, it's more scary, than if something happened to me. So the meditation on, like, now that I'm responsible for this deer was there. And then when he died, when he left his body, he thought of the deer. And then he took birth as a deer. But of course, his spiritual progress wasn't checked. And in the sense that, he didn't lose it completely. And in the body of a deer, he could remember his previous life. So he stayed close to an ashram of sages, where he could hear the names of the Lord, the glories of the Lord, and was then took birth as Jada Bharat. And as he took birth as Jada Bharat, he was born in a family, in a village or in a city, and he then appeared to be like a madman. Wouldn't speak, wouldn't eat properly, couldn't do anything. He'd wash his hands at the wrong times, be at the wrong places at the wrong time, say the wrong things. For all intents and purpose, people thought he was mad. And for that reason, they left him alone. Not really going to go to school, not really going to university, don't really get a job. Kind of like, in one sense, it was freedom. Freedom for him to internally meditate on the Lord. And then the story goes that one day the king needed a pallbearer to carry up his palanquin, and Jada Bharat was there. But as Jada Bharat was walking, Shri Shri Radharanath ki jai. As Jada Bharat was walking, he saw ants on the road. So he kept trying to step in such a way that he wouldn't kill the ants. And as a result, the king was not having a very smooth ride. So then the king stops him, the pallbearer finds out who's doing this. And then the conversation, then ensues from the king and Jada Bharat, where we get to see Jada Bharat's true quality, that he wasn't just some madman, that he had divine transcendental knowledge, which he then shared with the king. So Prabhupada is making a parallel between the story of Jada Bharat, which is famous, and the life of Utkala. So we see here Utkala is described as, it's exactly how I felt when I read the wrong verse, foolish, dumb, blind, deaf and mad. He's described like that. He appeared to that like that. But Prabhupada is saying, the verse is saying that he appeared to that to the less intelligent. Whereas his true qualities was like a fire that was covered with ash instead of the blazing flames being eminent. We were seeing more the embers. So I think when I read the verse, the first thought that came to my mind was that a devotee's true character can be hidden from those who don't have the intelligence to see it. And by I mean true character, I mean their devotion. Unless we have proper spiritual intelligence, we won't be able to perceive the devotion of others. We may only be able to perceive their faults. The common example is given, that in terms of our mentality, if you have a sheet that's completely white and there's one black spot, then the person with a critical mind only sees the black spot. And if you have a black sheet that's black, but there's just one white spot on it, then the pure devotee just sees that good quality, that one good quality in a person, and expands it. There may be so much wrong, but just look, that person, they really love kirtan. And then that's all that they see. That is the devotion. So the pure devotee has that vision. So therefore, when this verse is saying that it is showing that a devotee's true character is only visible when we have true spiritual intelligence, which means that when our heart is purified. And I think that's interesting because we require intelligence to see through what appeared in Utkala to be a lack of intelligence. So it appears that Utkala has a lack of intelligence, but it's us who require the intelligence to see through it, to see through what appears to be his lack of intelligence and his real spiritual nature. And from here we learn that we cannot make judgments on someone's heart and on someone's spiritual advancement. Like, what is that saying? How does it go? It's easy to judge people's actions and not know their intention, and expect people to know our intention and not judge our actions. Meaning that you do something wrong and you wasn't trying to, it wasn't your intention, but something happened, and then people are just going to see this is the action. They did that thing. But they cannot see the intention. However, when we do it, it's easy then to judge someone's action because we cannot see their intention. But when we do it, we know our intention. So we get sometimes offended when people may just judge the action. Like, look, I fell short here, but did you see the 98% of effort I put? But you can't, because you can't see the person's intention. So it hurts when people can't see our intention and judge us just by the result, by the action. But at the same time, we also judge people's actions because we can't see their intention. So therefore, it's wise to not assume someone's intention. We can see the action for what it is. Okay, the result may have been positive or negative, but we cannot judge the person's intention, that they did this because they are like that. So therefore we should always separate what we can see as a person's action and their intention. So therefore we can't make judgments on someone's heart or their spiritual advancement based on their, as we're learning from Utkala, based on their external physicality or their mental ability. Because neither the external physicality nor the mental ability is a symbol of their devotion. And what their devotion is, we don't know. We can't say. So the best thing is, just don't judge them. Just don't judge them. But if we judge based on the external ability and the external physicality and the mental ability, then it is we who are unintelligent and not them. It is us who is unintelligent. Now in the previous verse, we hear about the fire and the fire of bhakti that burns all the dirty things in the heart to ash. And this verse is describing how Utkala was like that fire. And this is interesting because the pure devotee burns like the process of bhakti. In Srimad, what I'm trying to say is, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you have the person Bhagavat and the book Bhagavat. It's described, which means that Srimad Bhagavatam, this is Bhagavat. But the pure devotee, he's also called Bhagavat. So you can get divine knowledge from the Srimad Bhagavatam or from the pure devotee, both the Bhagavat. So here the process of bhakti was described as a fire. And here Utkala, who is the pure devotee, who is Bhagavat, is also described by the fire, as fire. So the process of bhakti and the person is of the same quality in a pure devotee. The same quality, the same potency. So therefore the opportunity to be in the association of a pure devotee is the rarest, most valuable thing in all existence. in all existence, there's nothing that can be more valuable than the moments of association with a pure devotee. And Chaitanya Charitamrita is saying, lava matra. Lava matra means 1/8 of a second. If you spend 1/8 of a second in the presence of a pure devotee, you're no longer the same. Of course, if our mind and our heart is geared in the right way, then the change impacts greater. So therefore, it is not something we can take lightly. This verse made me remember a story that Kadambakanana Swami says, that when he was in the Amsterdam temple, there were some guests that were coming often every night, and they weren't exactly devotees, so he was trying to cultivate them, spend some time with them, be their friend, etc. But after some period of time, he could see that they weren't shifting. They weren't connecting more to bhakti. They were in some static space, And then he told them that if, he said, I am fire. And if you want to be with me, you need to burn. You have to burn in the process of bhakti. He would also and he would narrate the story so that we also knew, that he was fire. And if you want to be close to him, then you have to burn. You have to burn in the process of bhakti. You have to let the negative things in the heart burn. You have to be connected to the process of bhakti. And this fire analogy goes far and wide in our Shastra, because it's described that our nature as Tatastha Shakti, as the in-between energy, is that we're iron that can be placed in the fire and that can be placed outside the fire. So when you place iron in fire, what happens? The iron gets hot. It also starts to glow. So it takes on the properties of fire. That's how we're saying that the person Bhagavat and the book Bhagavat are both fire, But when you take the iron out of the fire, that's the other side of the story, is that the iron is just going to become cold again and going to act like iron. So unless we are constantly connected to the fire through the current of bhakti, then when we are connected to the current of bhakti, we act as devotees. When we're disconnected from the current of bhakti, we don't act as devotees, internally and externally. So therefore, if you want to be with me, I am fire, you burn. And the other point that was coming to my mind is that we see with Utkala that the person on the street could not recognize his quality because of their lack of intelligence. And similarly, the pure devotee, they do not always reveal it, for different reasons that Prabhupada states in the purport. And therefore it's said that on the appearance day and the disappearance day that between the appearance day and disappearance day of a great soul, it is the disappearance day that's even more auspicious. And the reason being is because by the disappearance, their qualities have now fully bloomed. They've had Krishna has had they've been on the planet, and Krishna has made all his arrangements so that their true nature, their true devotion is now exposed fully just before they leave. So therefore the disappearance day is considered to be even more auspicious, because now you see the lotus in full bloom. Because before we're covered by our lack of intelligence and we can't see. And then somehow you see it that before a pure devotee leaves, Krishna just really elevates them. Not in the sense that now I give you just spiritual Shakti, boom. It's that he elevates them in the sense that he elevates our vision, and we are able to see what we couldn't have seen before. Because it was there, but we were the ones with the less intelligence who couldn't see it. So, and I noticed that also with my own spiritual master. In those last months that led up before he left, it's just like, I knew this person for 18 years, but it's like I just never knew him. I didn't know who I was looking at. I didn't understand. What we were seeing was just not physically or humanly possible, for somebody in a body, So it was just really, and then I realized that all these years, I was just covered without the intelligence to be able to see who I was dealing with. And then for a moment, the curtains lifted, and then it's too late. It's too late to act on that because he's gone. So physically. So therefore, there's a tendency, Prabhupada is saying in the purport, why does the devotee cover himself or herself? He says to avoid contradiction, to avoid botheration, and to avoid unfavorable situations. So what sort of contradiction? To avoid contradiction, because one cannot understand how a devotee on the pure level acts and may misjudge them, and this would lead to offenses. So to avoid offenses, Utkala remained in this situation. Then to avoid botheration, because once people know that you have spiritual Shakti, then they're lining up, bless my house, bless my cat, bless my dog, bless my TV, bless my, and it's like it's a botheration, like Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. He would go and do his meditation, like, where people would pass stool and urine, so that nobody would come and bother him. And when people came and bother him, you're so great, you're such a great devotee, like, please bless me. He's like, okay, I bless you to come and meditate with me here. And that was not the blessing the people were looking for. So therefore, to avoid botheration. And to avoid unfavorable situations. Just basically people who want things on the external level. And that the fact that they want to be prashanta, they want to be peacefully Krishna conscious. So for these reasons, a pure devotee may cover their spiritual potency, so we can't perceive it. And it says in the purport and in the verse, I think, he remained silent. I think that's in the verse. That he remained silent. And this reminded me of, because we've been rehearsing Bhagavad Gita for like 6 months now. So this took me back to of secrets I am silence, and I forgot your 10:38. Of secrets I am silence. And this is like a really interesting verse that comes up in the Bhagavad Gita. Because what is Krishna saying? We know when Srila Prabhupada describes silence, silence means don't talk nonsense. So we talk of Krishna, we're not silent, we speak, we chant the holy name, we dance in kirtan. That isn't silence, but from a nonsensical level, we are silent. But I always wondered why Krishna calls that a secret. I didn't have the time to check that up, but I thought it's really interesting. If anybody knows, they can share with me why Krishna considers that the secret of all secrets. So therefore, Utkala was silent in the sense that all his energy was focused on the spiritual domain. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport is saying that this sort of silence, he gives this categories of not just that a devotee doesn't speak, but how they speak. And he says that a devotee a spiritual practitioner, with devotees, he speaks in friendship. And with the innocent, he speaks to enlighten them, not to preach their socks, that my notes is saying, not to preach their socks off, because it's the mood. It's the mood. The mood of because right now, Prabhupada is describing the Madhyama Adhikari. So the non-kanista, the Madhyama Adhikari, the middle intermediate devotee, which means someone who's had some progress in spiritual life, past the initial stages. And it's very deceptive about how long the initial stages can last in our devotional practice. So the Madhyama Adhikari, he has this vision that with devotees he cultivates friendships, and with the innocent he has the mood to enlighten them because he sees their position. And he knows that they're in a suffering condition. And he knows that if he shares Krishna consciousness with them, that suffering can be alleviated. But he doesn't do it to show them how much he knows. And he doesn't do it to show them how better he is than they are, or he or she, And so therefore the mood of the Madhyamadikari is different. And it's the mood of the Kanista that all these things come in. It's so definitely the mood of the Kanista. And to others, Srila Prabhupada is saying to others, those who are not innocent and those who are not devoted, he avoids them. Now, this others is referring to people who are antagonistic, or people whose sinful mentality or sinful actions will influence us. And so to remain aloof from that is a devotional principle. It's a devotional principle. So the devotee does that. He stays away from that sort of association in order to protect their bhakti. Because our bhakti is fragile. And when one is humble enough to know that he needs that protection, he'll do this. He or she will do this. And I was thinking, at least for myself, that this jana sangha, this bad association, is not just comes like in the form of physical people you meet in the streets, because who meets people in the street these days? Nobody does. Like nobody talks to each other on the street. But it also comes between what we see, what we hear, what's on our phones, what's on our screens. So it was a reminder for me also that is also jana sangha. That's jana sangha. If it's not devotional, then what is it encouraging? And so therefore, one who understands that our bhakti is fragile and was humble enough to know that our spiritual life our bhakti lata actually can't handle these things, we'll be careful about it. And then Prabhupada is describing the Gostiya Nandi and the Bhajana Nandi. So the Bhajana Nandi is a devotee who focus is on sadhana and sadhana bhakti, which means their own purification in terms of hearing, chanting, remembering Krishna, worshipping, that's the focus. And the Gostiya Nandi is the one who then steps out of that bubble and encounters the world in order to be able to share with them devotion. It's very clear, that Srila Prabhupada was a Gostiya Nandi, otherwise, why would he cross the ocean and, share Krishna consciousness with all of us? So therefore, it's evident that we especially are in a lineage of Gostiya Nandis. However, the best devotee is the Bhajana Nandi who steps out to preach. So it means that unless we actually have that, it's not that we don't become Bhajana Nandis, it's just that we do bhajan, we imbibe bhajan, we should do so with the same depth and the same devotion that a Bhajana Nandi would do. But with that, we step outside and we share Krishna consciousness share Krishna consciousness with others. And therefore the best devotee is the Bhajana Nandi who steps out and preaches. But at the same time, Prabhupada is saying that this Bhajana Nandi and Gosti Nandi, they're advanced devotees. And because I'm not so advanced, then there's a reason why we should also fall on the Gosti Nandi side. But because we're not so advanced, we're depending on the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. We're depending on the process of Lord Chaitanya, on the fact that he has ordered us to be part of the tree of devotion and to share the fruits of love of God. And sometimes maybe I can't chant perfect japa, or I can't imbibe the whole Bhagavatam, but I can go out and give somebody prasad. And Lord Chaitanya sees that. So sometimes it's not that we should be Gostiya Nandis because we think that we are now elevated on that platform that we can share share what we have with others, But because we know that if we don't, we don't have any other means of salvation. If it's not through Lord Chaitanya, then through who? So, for the purpose of attracting Lord Chaitanya's mercy, understanding that we're really far away from the Gostiya Nandi or Bhajan Nandi platform. We take part in activities that benefit the world because that's the only way we can save ourselves. And with that, though, we cannot be arrogant to think that we can do this without the effort of sadhana. Because that's what it is. When we step out and we're on book marathon and I'm distributing hundreds of books, but I never picked up my bead bag, then we're at risk. We're at risk. And the risk is that we have now become arrogant. Actually, it's arrogance. It's arrogance to the point to think that I can survive this, being able to go out and give when I haven't fed myself. It's arrogance that my bhakti can blossom if I haven't been humble enough to pick up my bead bag. So one who is humble will fortify themselves, and one who is humble will also step out to that fortification and share it. I was remembering Mukunda Datta Prabhu when I was studying in Vrindavan some years ago, and we had a deity worship course, and he was teaching it. He's the head pujari of the temple we have in Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram. And he would describe how we have the processes that we follow, like we heard from Gaura Premi, is the Pancharatrika Vidhi and the Bhagavat Marg. The Pancharatrika Vidhi includes the deity worship and all these different rules and regulations that we follow. And the Bhagavat Marg is the Srimad Bhagavatam, the holy name, which is the essence of what is for Kali Yuga. And of these are described as 2 train tracks, and basically we run on both. For a train to run, you need both sides of the train track. However, if we had to leave one, it would be the Pancharatrika Vidhi, because with the Bhagavat Marg, we have enough, So being the young whippersnapper that I was, and still am, I kind of said, okay, then why do we need the Pancharatrika Vidhi? Can't we all just go Bhagavat Marg, Can't we just do Harinam, do Kirtan, chant Hare Krishna, be happy, read the Bhagavatam, because that's all we really need, logically. And then he said something which cut me to the core. He said, and if you're not attracted to the form of the deities, then what will you be attracted to? Forms of the material energy. Again, but this is our practice, our sadhana, that is fortifying us so that we can step out and share. So therefore, sometimes in spiritual life, I even found with myself, we kind of look for black and white answers. Is it this or is it that? Am I meant to be a Bhajana? Am I meant to be a Gostiyanat? Can you just tell me, please? But as time goes on, you realize that it's very subtle, that these things are subtle. Not only are they subtle, but they're in motion. It's like balance is like riding a bicycle, right? But when you ride a bicycle, you are in motion. You are never on a straight line. You're constantly shifting actually your balance from one side to the other side as it needs to be corrected. So sometimes we need to fall on the side of, no, now I need deeper sadhana. And sometimes we have to fall on, okay, it's book marathon, I'm only going to have the bare minimum, But it's that minimum needs to be there, but it's going to be bare minimum. And then, so therefore our balance has to shift. So that it's never that you just walk a straight path and say, yeah, it's balanced. And answers are never just right and wrong. There's shading. Because when we learn of answers as this is right and that is wrong, because it makes it clear in our minds, so we can now box things, then we start to judge other people. You didn't stay in the box. So therefore, it's the wrong answer that you would. But when we start accepting that there's shading, then we can be more broad-minded about our own practice and others people's practice. So, with time we realize that we need to think deeply about what we do and why we do it in order to be effective. So what is the risk I was thinking, this is my last point. What is the risk if we just go down one road and not the other road? In the sense of, let's say we just become, we make just being the Bhajananandi our goal. Then we run the risk of becoming selfish. It's about me, my spiritual life, my purification, my journey back to Godhead, and good luck. Because in the age of Kali, you're not going to be able to dig into the garden of your heart and pull out every weed. You're just not going to be able to do it. The other thing we risk is that if we just go the Bhajananandi route, is we become irrelevant. The world looks at us and say, my God, they're strange people. Never want to be like them. And maybe that does happen. Next thing that can happen is that we become dry. We become dry. Because it's when, at least for myself, it's when you see Krishna consciousness take birth in another soul, like not take birth, but reveal itself in another person, that you become so much more enthused about your own practice. And then you get reminded, oh yeah, that's why I chant, huh? You get that reminder. So it tends that we tend to become dry if we just go the Bhajananandi route. And then we may come to the point of where, yes, I've read the Bhagavatam 50 times over, but what have I realized? What have I realized? And with all of that, we can become proud. Nobody chants like I chant. They don't get up as early as I do. So this becomes the pitfall of a Bhajananandi. Of an aspiring Bhajananandi. Because the real Bhajananandi is advanced enough to do it, And then the pitfall of an aspiring Gostyanandi is he also can become proud. Nobody preaches like I preach, And then a big thing is that they can become compromised. Because they're walking so close to the edge of the water of the material energy. So close to the edge. Just put your feet in a little bit more, little bit more, then you're drowning. Because in the name of outreach or in the name of preaching, I'm now totally compromised in my mind, in terms of the philosophies I'm accepting, in my habits, and in terms of the people that I'm encountering, as Prabhupada was explaining in the purport. So we can become so much more infiltrated by the modes of nature. Because within this temple, we're very much protected. The only thing we're not protected from is our own minds. But we're very much protected from the material energy. And you take one step out, you feel it. Feel the modes of nature. It reminds me of one day I'm going to end with this. I was in Amsterdam. They were having a Harinam on a King's Day. King's Day is a huge Harinam in Amsterdam. And Amsterdam is also a very intense city. It's not just Maya, it's intense Maya. So there's this big Harinam, 300 devotees, we're all going down, we're singing, we're chanting. And it's like, it was the spiritual world. It's like just kirtan after kirtan for 3-4 hours. Then we stop for half an hour or 45 minutes to eat lunch. And we do another 3-4 hours kirtan. That's the day. And in that break, when people stopped to take prasad, the kirtan stopped, and it wasn't even long. It was like 10 minutes. Because while everybody was taking prasad, there was still one small kirtan group going on the side, But for that 10 minutes, suddenly, the modes of material nature just went shoo. And I'm sitting there with my plate of prasadam, this drunk guy, starts swearing the temple president, and he rolls into the tent, and he's there with his girlfriend, and I looked on this side, there's a canal, and there's a blonde and a redhead, and they weren't dressed properly, let's just leave it at that. And it's just suddenly I realized, oh, I'm in Amsterdam, and then the kirtan started again, and we weren't there anymore. And actually, while the kirtan was on, because that was the first King's Day and there was a whole coronation happening, the Harinam had went through the red light district. And the red light district means that this is the height of prostitution. It means that they have shops with windows, and the product that they are trying to market is in the windows. I didn't even see it. I'm like, wait, we went there? Like, I didn't even see it. Because the kirtan was so incredible. So we run the risk as the Gosti Anandi that the modes of nature are going to take over us. And be humble enough to admit that we are susceptible to it. We're so susceptible to the modes taking over us. So, I can't read that point, so that's good. So, therefore, we learn to not judge someone's intention. Be patient with the person's intention. We learn that the purification of the mind and the heart will help us see what a devotee's true potential is, and that the time and moments that we get to spend in pure association are life-changing and the most valuable things that we can have. We also learn that in our own life, the elements of sadhana and the elements of outreach need to be intermingled in order for us to have, to be most effective and most successful as devotees. I stop here. Any thoughts or quick comments before we end? 3, 2.
Hare Krishna. I heard in a lecture, how Jada Bharat, how it was because before he became Jada Bharat, when he was, Bharat Maharaj, how he became attached to the deer because actually he was proud of his renunciation. Now he became a Bhajananandi and he was so proud that he renounced, his whole kingdom and everything. And then the whole attachment to the deer happened.
I also heard something else, that once we had a retreat with Kadambakananda Swami, and the whole retreat, the whole essence of the thing was he was asking the question, okay, so what should Bharat Maharaj have done? Should he have let the deer die? So what should he have done? And the point was, And then become a deer in your next life. Okay, we can see one vote for next life as a deer. But he said the point was not that he shouldn't have saved it, but then you needed to have saved it and then realize that this animal has its own destiny by the laws of nature, and needs to go on its way. At some point, Jada Bharat needed to have let it go. But because it completely clouded it, it is when the deer became a distraction to his spiritual path, that was the problem. And so think about what distracts you from the spiritual path. And let it go. Yes. But the problem was that Jada Bharat, the real problem, was not in association. So nobody could say, hey Prabhu, let the deer go. Enough now. It doesn't look like you're not fulfilling your services properly. Like, I didn't see you chanting nicely this morning. Like, why weren't you at Mangalartik? Nobody was there to say those things. The things that we, in the Association of Devotees, hate hearing. That we hate hearing. So, because he was not in the Association of Devotees, those things, nobody was there to help him when he became distracted. Okay, so we're leaving it there. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande. So nice to have you back, Prabhu. travel was fruitful. Ja. Time. I didn't get you to read that first. Yeah, everything gets planned.